Forget every script, every piece of canned advice, every trick you've ever been told about conversation. The common paradigm is broken. Most men approach interaction as fishermen. They stand on the shore of social engagement, casting lines baited with wit, compliments, and rehearse stories into the uncertain waters of a woman's attention. They wait, hoping for a bite, a smile, a laugh, a phone number that will, for a moment, validate their worth. Their entire posture is one of supplication and hope. They are performers on a stage they do not control, auditioning for a role they may not even want, desperate for approval from a director they've just met. But there exists another kind of man. A man who operates from a different paradigm entirely, the architect. The architect does not cast lines. He does not hope. He constructs. He understands that influence is not taken, but built. He doesn't seek to win validation, he shapes perception itself. When he speaks, his words are not mere sounds to fill the silence, they are load-bearing walls of a reality he is carefully engineering. He creates a quiet, magnetic gravity, a psychological force that draws people into his orbit without a single plea for their attention. His presence builds an invisible architecture around him, a structure of emotional depth and intellectual safety that others instinctively want to step into and inhabit. The ancient strategist Niccolò Machiavelli, in his seminal work The Prince, deduced a fundamental truth of power: men are ruled more by what they see than by what they touch. He understood that true authority begins not in the physical realm of possessions or titles, but in the psychological realm of perception. Your influence does not ultimately come from your car, your job title, or your ability to tell a joke. It emanates from the emotional reality you project and, more importantly, how people feel in your presence. Do they feel heard, understood, and seen? Do they feel a sense of possibility and peace? Or do they feel the need to perform and impress? This emotional footprint is what separates the average conversationalist, the fisherman, from the psychological architect. What follows is not a list of pick-up lines or manipulative tricks. This is a foundational blueprint for building authentic, powerful connections from the ground up. Below are 7 precise questions, verbal and psychological load-bearing walls, designed not to start a conversation, but to engineer one. Each has been crafted to bypass the logical, defensive cortex of the brain and speak directly to the emotional and subconscious core, the real language of attraction and trust. Used with intent and integrity, they will not just create a pleasant evening, they will create a resonant echo. They will ensure she thinks about you hours later, replaying the moments of your interaction, trying to decipher the quiet magnetism she felt in your presence. This is not manipulation. Manipulation is for those who lack real power. This is mastery, mastery of human psychology, mastery of emotional architecture, and mastery of the unseen currents of influence that govern human connection. Let us begin construction. Question 1. The foundation of trust. When was the last time you felt truly, deeply understood? The setup is simple yet strategic. The initial, easygoing banter has already played out. You've both laughed, exchanged pleasantries, and settled into a baseline of comfort. Most men, at this point, panic when the conversation quiets. They retreat to the safety of transactional questions. So, what do you do for work? Also, where are you from? These questions collect facts but build nothing. They are conversational cardboard, dry, lifeless, forgettable. But you, the architect, will sense the subtle shift in energy, a softening, a slight lowering of the guard. This is not a moment to retreat. It is the moment to lay your foundation. You will not aim for her mind, which is tangled in the trivialities of daily life. You will aim for her emotional core. You will ask a question that pierces beyond the surface of logic and identity itself. When was the last time you felt deeply understood by someone? The delivery is everything. Speak slowly, naturally, without performance, without pretense. Let your tone carry the weight of calm confidence, the steadiness of a man unafraid of silence or depth. This is not the question of a flirt, it is the question of a man who truly listens. A man who sees beyond presentation, who recognizes the hidden layers most people overlook, and who has the quiet courage to reach them. The psychological mechanics behind this question are deliberate. There are 3 forces at play. First, the language of depth. The phrase deeply understood is a linguistic precision strike. It transcends the ordinary language of being seen or being heard. It signals comprehension, resonance, and emotional literacy. It tells her you are not engaging with her social persona, you are seeking the mind behind the mask. Second, the power of directed introspection. This question is not about you, it's an invitation for her to step inward. You give her permission to pause the performance and visit a memory of authenticity. You shift her awareness from the external to the internal, from presentation to reflection. Third, the sanctity of silence. Once you ask, you must hold the silence. No filler words, no nervous laughter, no attempt to relieve the tension. The silence is not awkward, it's sacred. It tells her you are comfortable with the truth. And in that stillness, something begins to happen. Watch her eyes, they'll soften, drift inward. Tiny flickers will appear across her face, a trace of sadness, a glimmer of warmth, the ghost of longing. You're witnessing the walls begin to crumble. And then comes the result. This is where the true magic unfolds. In that one question, you've changed the entire dynamic. You are no longer a stranger making polite conversation, you've become a presence. You've stepped out of the noise and into her memory. In her world full of shallow exchanges and performative charm, you've offered something rare, understanding without agenda. You become a mirror for her depth. Even if she doesn't answer fully, the moment imprints itself on her subconscious. She will remember how she felt in your presence, safe, seen, recognized. You've become the emotional reference point she didn't know she was missing. Because in a world where everyone wants to be admired, the one who makes you feel understood becomes unforgettable. Question 2. The bridge to her past. The foundation of trust has already been laid. The conversation carries a new warmth, a fluid openness that wasn't there before. She feels safe with you now, intrigued by the depth you've already established. Most men would relax at this stage, content with the comfort they've built. But you are not most men. You understand that emotional connection is a ladder, and each rung must lead somewhere deeper. This is the moment to build a bridge, not to her present self, but to her past. Specifically, to the version of her that existed before responsibility, disappointment, or the quiet erosion of dreams reshaped her. Most people accumulate identities the way Earth accumulates layers of stone, each one pressed into place by expectation, obligation, and compromise. The unguarded, passionate dreamer they once were becomes buried beneath years of adaptation. Your question is an excavation tool. What's a dream you once held close, but had to let go of, or what's something you used to love doing, but life somehow took you away from? The framing is everything. You're not asking her to relive failure, you're inviting her to revisit loss. You're not shining light on regret, but on nostalgia. The phrasing evokes tenderness, not defensiveness. It invites her to touch the forgotten edges of who she once was, and that, psychologically, is the rarest form of intimacy. This question works because it speaks to the universal tragedy of becoming. Every human being, in the process of survival, has abandoned something sacred along the way. By asking about a lost dream, you are saying without words, I want to know the version of you the world made you hide. You are bypassing her resume, her persona, her polished present. You are reaching into the soil of her memory to honor her before the world reshaped her. And when she answers, you listen not just to the content, but to the emotion woven into her tone. Her voice will change. Her posture will soften. A wistful distance will cross her expression. Sometimes she'll smile, a smile that carries both warmth and ache. This is where most men fail. Their instinct is to repair. They want to soothe, to offer solutions, to fill the silence with comfort. But that instinct destroys the magic. Because your power here does not lie in fixing, it lies in witnessing. You are not her savior, you are her mirror. So you hold the silence. You reflect, gently, it sounds like that was a really important part of you, or I can hear how much that meant to you in your voice. Then you stop. You let the weight of acknowledgement hang in the air. You let her feel the rare peace of being seen without being corrected. In that stillness, the emotional current thickens. You become the one man who can sit with her truth without needing to reshape it. And then comes the result. You have done something subtle but extraordinary. You've reached into her personal mythology and touched the forgotten pulse of who she used to be. You haven't just learned something about her, you've unlocked something within her. She will feel the echo of that moment long after the conversation ends. Because you didn't just listen, you resurrected a version of her she thought no one remembered. And from that moment on, you are no longer just another man in her world, you are the man who remembered the girl she once was. That is your hook. Because long after charm fades, appearance blurs, and memory distorts, she will recall one thing with startling clarity, the feeling of being understood by you, not for who she is now, but for who she used to be. And that is how you become unforgettable. Question 3. The mirror of authenticity. In your daily life, when do you feel most like you're performing and instead of just being? You've already touched the deeper layers of her past. You've seen the version of her that once dreamed freely before life began editing her. Now, it's time to turn the mirror toward her present, to reveal the tension between who she is and who she pretends to be. The atmosphere between you has changed, there's warmth, trust, a palpable undercurrent of emotional safety. You've earned the right to go further. This question doesn't dive backward, it moves inward. It exposes the subtle performance most people live without even noticing. We all wear masks. The work mask. The social mask. The family mask. The dating mask. Each one serves a purpose, a form of self-protection in a world that rewards conformity more than authenticity. But these masks are heavy. They drain vitality, dull the spark, and blur the line between truth and presentation. Most people don't realize they're performing, it's an unconscious survival reflex. Your question, however, is the moment that pulls the curtain back. You are not confronting her, you are inviting her to witness herself. You ask, with soft curiosity, when do you feel most like you're performing instead of just being? Or where in your life do you feel like you always have to be or on? Your delivery must be artful, firm in awareness yet warm in energy. You ask it with a faint, knowing smile that says, I understand this game, we all play it. Your tone must never carry judgment, only shared recognition. You are not trying to unmask her, you are simply offering her the chance to exhale. The way you hold your posture, steady, composed, grounded, communicates one thing, you are safe here. This is where the psychological architecture reveals itself. The question is not simply introspective, it's reflective of your perceptive intelligence. It signals that you see beyond her words, that you can sense the invisible performance beneath her confidence. You are not just listening to her story, you are perceiving the subtext, the quiet exhaustion that comes from pretending. Your question tells her, without saying it outright, you don't have to perform with me. That, in a world addicted to image and validation, is disarming beyond measure. She will likely pause. That pause is not hesitation, it's recalibration. Her mind is scanning through her daily life, her job, her friendships, maybe even this very interaction. She might laugh, self-aware, brushing off the discomfort. Pay attention not to her answer, but to her rhythm, to the moment she skips over, the slight tonal shifts, the quick glances away. The truth hides in those fragments. As she speaks, don't interrupt. Don't rush to reassure. You are not there to fix or comfort, you are there to witness. Offer only subtle understanding, perhaps a calm nod, or the simple phrase, I know that feeling well. You are not removing her mask for her. You are merely handing her the mirror and letting her decide if she wants to take it off. And then, the result. The energy changes. You can almost feel it in the air. Her body relaxes, her shoulders drop, her voice lowers into its natural register. The performance dissolves. You've created something rare, psychological sanctuary. In a world that constantly demands she be someone, you have become the only space where she can simply be. The relief of that moment is tangible, it feels like oxygen. And once someone breathes freely in your presence, they never forget it. Because at that point, you've stopped being a man she's talking to. You become the one man who allows her to stop performing. And that kind of peace is addictive. She won't just remember you, she'll return to you in her mind whenever she's tired of the world's noise. You've become the still point in her chaos, the rare person with whom the performance ends. Question 4. The key to her inner world. What's a quiet fear that you feel, but never really say out loud? The architecture of trust now stands firm. You've guided her through memory, identity, and performance, and something fundamental has shifted. The space between you feels different, charged, grounded, alive with quiet attention. Silence no longer feels like a void to fill, it feels like a language of its own. She's relaxed, attuned, open. This is the moment when most men talk too much, when they break the spell with triviality. But not you. You know that depth is not found in the noise, but in the stillness. Now, you guide her one level deeper, beyond memory and mask, into the place few people dare to go, the soft, unspoken terrain of quiet fear. Not the dramatic or catastrophic kind, but the subtle, ever-present anxieties that hum beneath the surface. The fears that shape decisions, that whisper in the late hours, that quietly dictate who we allow ourselves to become. This question requires surgical precision in timing and tone. You wait for the right moment, when her defenses have lowered, when her words have slowed. Then, with effortless calm, you ask, what's a quiet fear that you feel, but never really say out loud? The phrasing matters. It's intimate without being invasive. It's not a probe, it's an invitation. Your delivery must be soft, grounded, free of performance. You sit with a posture that signals calm presence, not control. Your eyes hold hers, not intensely, but steadily. The gaze of someone who can hold truth without flinching. This is not an interrogation. It's the rare moment where she feels that setting down her armor might actually feel like relief. The mechanics of this question operate on multiple psychological levels. First, the realm of the shadow self. Jung wrote that what we repress or deny doesn't disappear, it simply hides in darkness, shaping us from behind the curtain. By inviting her to name her quiet fear, you are creating a small light in that shadow. You are giving her unconscious space to breathe. You're not asking her to confess, you're offering her permission to acknowledge. Second, you engage the gift of witnessing. Most people's fears remain unspoken because they are tired of the world's shallow responses, dismissal, advice, or false reassurance. But your strength lies in restraint. You don't minimize. You don't fix it. You simply witness. You hold the silence with calm assurance, showing her that her fears don't intimidate you, and therefore, they don't need to intimidate her either. Third, you establish the bond of shared vulnerability. You are not necessarily sharing your own fear in this moment, but by creating the container in which hers can exist safely, you demonstrate rare emotional courage. You become what most men aren't, a man who is emotionally unthreatened. When she begins to answer, it will likely be a test. Her first response may be safe, polite, a half-truth designed to gauge your reaction. Don't flinch. Don't overpraise. Don't fill the air with analysis. Just listen. Because if she senses you can handle the surface calmly, she may dare to show you the depth beneath it. That's where the real truth lives, in the pauses between her sentences, in the tremor of her breath, in the slight hesitation before she continues. Sometimes her voice will soften, sometimes she'll laugh in discomfort. Watch her eyes, they'll flicker, searching yours for confirmation that it's still safe. If you remain still, if your presence remains steady, she'll let you into the emotional territory most people never see. And then, the result. What happens next is subtle but irreversible. When someone exposes a hidden fear and is met not with judgment, but understanding, something alchemical occurs. The fear loses its grip, and in its place, trust takes root. You become psychologically imprinted as the person who did not flinch in the face of her shadow. That memory, the moment she revealed something fragile and was met with calm strength, will anchor itself in her. It will follow her long after the conversation ends. Because emotional safety is the rarest form of attraction. It's not the safety of comfort, it's the safety of being fully seen and still accepted. From that point forward, she will associate you with relief, the kind that's hard to find and impossible to forget. You've entered her subconscious not as another man in her story, but as the quiet space where she finally laid her armor down. And when the world overwhelms her again, she'll remember where she could breathe. And she'll come back to it, she'll come back to you. Question 5. The reservoir of emotion. If you could relive one memory, not to change it, but to experience it exactly as it was, what would you choose? By now, the emotional terrain between you has been explored with rare honesty. You've traversed the landscapes of her identity, her fears, her hidden truths. The trust you've built has density to it. It no longer floats on words, it rests on silence, understanding, and unspoken recognition. Now, it's time to bring light into that depth. In music, this shift is called dynamic range, the emotional contrast that makes the melody feel alive. You've honored her shadows, now you guide her toward warmth. This transition is not abrupt. It's a natural evolution, the moment when a heavy note resolves into something gentle and bright. What you are showing her, without saying it, is that you can hold both ends of the spectrum, light and dark, joy and fear, and remain unmoved. The question itself should emerge effortlessly, like a soft pivot rather than a turn. With a calm smile, you ask, if you could relive one memory, not to change it, but to experience it exactly as it was, what would you choose? The phrasing matters. The line "and not to change it" removes the heaviness of regret. It tells her this isn't about rewriting the past, it's about revisiting beauty. Your tone is warmer now, your voice carrying an undertone of genuine curiosity. This is your emotional calibration at work. You've guided her through shadow and reflection, and now you lead her toward radiance. The light you evoke isn't artificial, it's memory-made, born from truth. Psychologically, this question operates like a hidden lever. It activates what's known as state-dependent recall, the idea that memories aren't just facts, they are emotional portals. When she recalls a joyful experience, her brain doesn't just describe it, it replays it. The same neural pathways that fired in that original moment begin to activate again. You are not asking her to tell you about happiness, you are helping her feel it. As she speaks, the warmth she describes begins to bloom again in her body, and you, by proximity, become the anchor to that feeling. You are now no longer just the listener, you are the trigger of her emotional renewal. As she begins to describe the memory, guide her subtly into sensory richness. Ask softly, what did it feel like, or what do you remember about the air, the sounds, the light? These questions deepen the experience. They don't just make the story vivid, they make it real again. Each sensory detail she recalls strengthens the emotional charge of the memory. You'll notice the change immediately. Her breathing will slow and deepen, her voice will soften, her eyes might brighten or drift as if watching something unfold behind them. Her gestures will loosen, her smile will become less social and more genuine. You are no longer having a conversation, you are witnessing a moment of emotional resurrection. Your task here is simple but profound: be still. Let her joy live in the space between you. Don't overanalyze, don't interrupt with commentary. Just be the witness of her warmth. If she laughs softly at the memory, mirror it with quiet appreciation. If she becomes lost in nostalgia, let the silence hold her. Your stillness is what allows the emotion to expand. And as that warmth fills her, her subconscious will begin to draw the connection. This feeling of safety, ease, and happiness is happening with you here. And that is the result. You have accomplished something deceptively powerful. You are not merely hearing about her past, you are recreating the emotional state of that past in your presence. Her brain begins to link those sensations of contentment, joy, and peace to the sound of your voice, your gaze, your energy. Through the mechanism psychologists call emotional association, you become the living symbol of that feeling. Long after the conversation ends, when she recalls the memory she described, your image will surface, because you were there when she relived it. The warmth will return, and so will the thought of you. This is the final transformation. You have become emotionally encoded in her memory network, not as a fleeting encounter, but as the man who could travel with her through every emotional landscape without losing composure. You guided her from depth to light, from fear to warmth, from self-protection to self-expression. You've shown her the full emotional spectrum and proved you can contain it. And once someone experiences that range with you, the freedom to feel everything without fear, they don't just remember you. They crave your presence. Because with you, she doesn't just feel understood, she feels alive. Question 6. The antidote to invisibility. What's the most common misunderstanding people have about you? By this stage, the conversation has matured into something that feels almost timeless. You've both traveled through emotional terrain together: fear, vulnerability, joy, and what was once small talk has now become shared depth. The air carries a sense of familiarity that transcends duration. It feels as though you've known each other longer than you actually have. This is the perfect moment to address one of the deepest human cravings, the desire to be truly known. Beneath every confidence, every social performance, lies that quiet ache to be seen accurately, without distortion or projection. Most people walk through life half invisible, their true selves blurred behind assumptions. When you ask this question, you offer something most people never receive: the chance to be understood without defense. It shouldn't sound rehearsed or calculated. The line should emerge naturally, as though born from curiosity rather than design. You lean in slightly, your tone calm but attentive, and say, "I'm curious, what's the most common misunderstanding people have about you?" There's no interrogative edge to your voice, no pressure for her to impress or justify herself. It's an invitation, not a challenge. The power of this question lies not in the words themselves, but in what they imply: that you care about the gap between how she is seen and who she truly is. You're not asking for her resume, you're asking for her reality. Psychologically, this question unlocks 3 powerful mechanisms of intimacy. The first is accurate reflection. As Charles Cooley theorized in his Looking Glass Self, much of a person's identity is constructed through the perceived reflections of others. When those reflections are distorted, when people mistake kindness for weakness, or confidence for arrogance, it fractures one's sense of coherence. By asking her to name the most common misunderstanding, you give her the rare opportunity to correct that reflection. She gets to articulate her real self instead of constantly reacting to how she's misperceived. The second mechanism is validation of lived experience. Every misunderstanding carries a hidden frustration, the knowledge that others judge the surface without understanding the context beneath it. When you ask this question, you validate that her internal experience matters more than external appearances. It tells her you see depth where others see outline. And that subtle shift, being understood not as an image, but as a complexity, creates an immediate sense of emotional safety. She feels she can expand with you instead of shrinking into defense. The third is intimacy through self-definition. Most people never articulate who they truly are, they spend their lives responding to what others assume. But when she answers this question, she will, perhaps unconsciously, begin to define herself, not to the world, but to you. She reveals the architecture of her identity, not through grand declarations, but through the quiet act of correction. In doing so, she's not just telling you about her life, she's handing you the blueprint to her inner world. As she answers, watch not only her words but her emotion. Does she speak with frustration, as if tired of being misread? Or with humor, as if she's made peace with it? Or with resignation, as if she's given up trying to be understood? The tone tells you what it costs her to be misunderstood. Let her finish completely. Then, after a short, thoughtful pause, mirror back what you've heard in a simple, empathic reflection, so people often see you as the misunderstanding, but what's actually true is her truth. Don't embellish it, just reflect it accurately. This act seems small, but it has profound psychological weight. It tells her you see her not through your projections, but through her reality. And that is what changes everything. You become, in the language of Carl Rogers, a mirroring self-object, the rare presence that reflects back not who someone pretends to be, but who they actually are. For many people, this experience is disarming, even addictive, because it touches something few ever feel, the relief of being recognized correctly. In that moment, you cease to be someone she's talking to. You become the one person who sees what is, not what's convenient to believe. This kind of perception builds loyalty that cannot be fabricated. It transcends attraction because it satisfies a deeper hunger, the desire for emotional accuracy. The world is filled with people who see fragments, exaggerations, or illusions. You become the one who sees the whole. And once she feels that, once she feels truly mirrored, something shifts permanently in her subconscious. Around you, she won't perform, she'll reveal. And the moment someone feels they can reveal their truth without fear of distortion, they no longer want to hide anywhere else. Question 7. The catalyst for potential. If a wave of courage hit you tonight, what life would you start building tomorrow? By now, the emotional architecture you've built together feels complete, solid, safe, and quietly alive. You've explored her past, her masks, her fears, her joys, and the subtle truths of how she moves through the world. The foundation of trust is laid, the walls of understanding stand firm, and the roof of mutual vulnerability protects what you've created. Now comes the final piece, the skylight. The moment where you invite her to look upward, toward possibility. This question isn't about who she's been or what she hides, it's about who she could become if she stopped hesitating. It's a subtle but powerful shift, from excavation to ignition. The delivery must feel effortless, almost like a shared daydream. You don't ask it with weight or solemnity, but with quiet wonder, as if the answer might reveal something beautiful. You wait for the right silence, the kind charged with mutual curiosity and openness, and then, softly, you ask, if a wave of courage hit you tonight, what life would you start building tomorrow? The phrasing itself is poetic by design. It bypasses logic and taps directly into imagination. That wave of courage frees her from the constraints of practicality, allowing her to glimpse the life she secretly imagined but rarely dared to articulate. Your tone carries belief, not analysis, an energy that says, I already see your potential, I'm just curious if you can see it too. Psychologically, this question operates on several profound levels. First, it bypasses resistance. Most people's dreams are buried beneath the weight of self-doubt and rational excuses. It's too late. I wouldn't know where to start. What if I fail? By framing courage as an external force, a wave that arrives from beyond her control, you allow her to suspend those objections. She no longer has to decide to be brave, she simply imagines what would happen if she were. It's a small but vital distinction. The question transforms an impossible scenario into a permission slip for truth. Second, it assumes capability. You are not asking, if you could do anything, what would it be? A question that implies limitation and fantasy. Instead, you imply that she already possesses the power and competence, she's just waiting for courage to activate it. This subtle framing creates an unconscious affirmation, you are able. You are ready. You just need to begin. To be seen this way, to be viewed as someone capable of more than she believes, is intoxicating. Third, it creates a shared vision. As she begins to describe what she would build, you become part of the emotional experience. You're not merely listening to her talk about the future, you are helping her construct it. Every detail she describes becomes more vivid because you're witnessing it. Your presence acts as an amplifier, a mirror that gives her permission to imagine more freely, more vividly. The more she speaks, the more she starts believing the image of herself. If her first answer is cautious or modest, don't correct her, expand her. Gently ask, what if that actually worked? What would be next? These kinds of follow-up questions push her imagination further into the territory of belief. Ask what she would feel waking up in that life, what she would see around her, who she would become within it. Encourage sensory richness, let her step inside her own vision. The goal isn't to interrogate her fantasy, it's to make her feel it so vividly that it starts to feel real. As she speaks, you'll notice her entire physiology shift. Her eyes will widen slightly as she visualizes. Her voice will rise and soften in different rhythms, reflecting both excitement and fear. This is her subconscious expanding. You've moved her from emotional excavation to emotional creation, from the pain of her past to the thrill of her potential. She's no longer just recalling life, she's authoring it. The deeper brilliance of this moment lies in what happens neurologically. When someone vividly imagines a desired future, their brain fires the same neural pathways as if they were actually living it. The emotional chemistry, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, starts to mirror the feelings of achievement, freedom, and excitement. And because all of this happens while she's sitting across from you, those sensations become anchored to your presence. You become the emotional link between her current self and her possible self, the one who didn't just see her potential, but summoned it. And that is where the real magnetism forms. In that single exchange, you transcend the role of conversational partner. You become, in psychological terms, a growth catalyst, someone who evokes expansion, not containment. She leaves the interaction not just liking you, but feeling more alive around you. The attraction you generate here isn't born of charm or status, it's born of association. You represent movement, courage, and possibility. Long after the conversation ends, she won't just remember what you said, she'll remember how she felt in that moment, hopeful, brave, and seen by someone who believed in her potential more than she allowed herself to. And that is the rarest form of connection, the kind that doesn't just make someone desire you, but makes them desire the person they could become when they're with you. This entire process represents a fundamental shift from seeking value to creating value in interaction. The fisherman's mindset is one of lack. He fishes because he needs validation. The architect's mindset is one of abundance. He builds because he has vision, stability, and materials to share. The 7 questions are not manipulation, they're the natural outward expression of genuine curiosity, emotional intelligence, and the courage to engage meaningfully. They work because they answer deep-seated human needs, to be understood, to be remembered, to be authentic, to have our fears accepted, to experience joy, to be accurately seen, and to have our potential believed in. When you master this architecture, you stop chasing connections and start attracting them naturally. You become the man in whose presence people feel more truly themselves and more inspired to become who they're meant to be. This isn't just about dating, it's about mastering the art of human connection itself. The blueprint is now yours. The materials are all around you. The only question that remains is, do you have the courage to stop fishing and start building?